He's looking right at us. You ready?
I'm good.
Okay, here we go.
Look at this ram. Holy smokes, look at this ram. This is, it's hard to explain. How far?
157.
157.
157.
Okay.
Okay, take it.
Hunting itself, and a lot of shooters, military folks especially, which I'm a former Army guy, so slow is smooth and smooth is fast. When you go on a mountain hunt, it doesn't matter how quickly you get up there. Sometimes you might have to quickly get into a shooting position or maybe that last 50 yards or whatever to get a shot. But typically with mountain hunting, the hardest part is getting to the top of the mountain. So being able to get yourself there mentally. Physically, what we do being flatlanders and low elevation like this, we hike with a 40-pound pack. And anytime you can get into a football stadium of any kind and do stairs of any kind or somewhere you can do stairs, that's probably the best use of your legs and obviously your cardiovascular system to get your heart rate up. Anything is helpful. Keep yourself in shape for a mountain hunt. If you're going to enjoy the hunt at all, you have to get in some type of physical condition to do a backcountry mountain hunt. Otherwise, the whole time you're just thinking, why did I do this to myself? This hurts. This is miserable. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. This was her and I hiking up New Zealand. We would literally go in the steep parts. We would only go sometimes 15, 20 yards and stop, catch our breath, and keep going. Just never give up. So fitness is a big deal, and being ready for a mountain hunt. So the pinnacle of my hunting career probably, if you was going to Mongolia and being able to harvest a argali, the largest sheep on the planet. This is the smallest of the largest. This is the Gobi, which is the desert, and then you have the Hangai and then the Altais. But we're talking just giant animals. Somewhere between a mule deer and elk body size with just ginormous horns. So this would be the pinnacle, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do this because of my job with the Wildlife Gallery and my outfitter direct, where I'm the one that networks and Charlotte now does, and Charlotte's been doing taxidermy for 35 years longer than I did taxidermy. But she's also part of this, and she's hunting sheep now too, and she's going to Alberta this year. But the reason I bring this up of the pinnacle is because everyone in here, this is where it's at. We're Michigan folks. I grew up in Elma, Michigan. I live in Mount Pleasant. Charlotte's an Iowa girl from southeast Iowa. She started hunting big deer in Iowa while I hunted the little northern Michigan
Cute ones.
she calls them cute deer. We're getting better here in Michigan. We're starting to let them get old enough to grow some antlers. But I literally started on state land in Baldwin, Michigan, Wolf Lake, all that big state and federal ground. That's where my dad took me and my three brothers in an old pop-up camper, and hang the buck on the pole, whatever had an antler on it that was 3 inches or more. Good night, Irene. We put it out. So that's where I come from. That's where we come from. Our passion always goes back to the white-tailed deer, and in this state, it is a huge passion, and we never forget where we come from, the white-tailed deer. We're going to talk about probably what you're most interested in, the packs, the clothes, the sleeping mats, those things. So let's talk about the pack first. And I'll show you a couple different packs that we use. If you're doing a backpack hunt where you're living out of your backpack, probably the most important thing to do is ensure you have at least 5,000 cubic inch pack. Okay, that's going to be the minimum. If you're on a guided hunt, that's probably the best size because the guide's going to really, they're usually younger, faster, stronger. They do it all season long. They're in better shape. They'll take the majority of the stuff in on their pack. But a 7,000 cubic inch pack is probably even better because if you got room, so it's like anything, you know, build that barn just a little bigger than you need so you got a little extra room just in case. We use the Kafaru packs. They're very expensive packs, but man, they're durable and they're comfortable. And if you get it fitted properly to yourself, it makes all the difference in the world for mountain hunting. The other pack that we started using a few years ago is called the Pack Rabbit. And it's literally, it's like a hard frame pack and it has a seat on it. And you know, I use that with the horseback hunts because it's smaller, but you know, you're carrying it, you're riding a horse. And then once you get off to your glassing, climb to your glassing points off the horse, you can actually flip it into a seat and sit on the darn thing. So that's a pack that I really like to use for a hunt that I'm not like packing all my gear and clothes. There is the three top brands and are obviously you've got Sitka, Kuiu, and Cryptic. Charlotte and I are Cryptic people because of my affiliation with the military. And the fellas that founded Cryptic were in Iraq, and they started this design and pattern. And the commander of Apache helicopter squadron, Butch Whiting, and I met him after he was stationed in Alaska, and he did a hunt. He's like, "Hey, I've got this idea." Well, it's this big company now, and we started repping them and developed a relationship with them based on that factor of the military involved. But the reason for those three brands, whatever you choose to use, is they're not cotton. They're very high quality, high durable materials. They're breathable materials. They're water resistant. Even just their normal clothes are water resistant. Then you put your rain gear on. The only difference really typically is the sealed seams that they sew together. So those are the type of clothes that you're going to want to wear. And for mountain hunting, it's all about layering your clothes. It's about like starting with whatever your base layer is. If it's cold in the morning, your merino wool. But if you're hiking, I wouldn't put any of that on. I just put your pants and t-shirt on, or long sleeve shirts, probably better for brush and stuff to keep your arms, and go with that. Then once you get set up, you start to layer to warm up because you're going to be sweaty, you're going to be too warm. So that's the reason to have the pack with compartments so you can layer your clothes. Sleeping bag mat, you want to go as light as possible on all this stuff, especially if you're backpack hunting. You know, these guys, they start counting ounces, you know, because like once you kill the animal, you got to get the animal out to and your gear. It's typically going to take more than one trip. But if you're mule deer hunting in the high country, sometimes if you're pretty tough and you got a buddy with you, you can get a whole deer and your gear out, depending on how much you take in and how heavy it is. When I was in British Columbia hunting the stone sheep, we flew in on a bush plane. We rode a horse almost a full day to this camp, and you can look on your GPS on my Garmin and say, wow, you know, there's nobody here, right? 2 young kids come hiking through. And the guide's like, yeah, it happens every year. You get a couple of young bucks because you can hunt sheep as a resident in BC. And now he goes, I don't believe that they take all the meat like they're supposed to, everything they're supposed to. They kill a ram, which is unfortunate. But just the fact that they hiked in 24 miles just to get to their camp. It was 24 miles to get to their camp from the nearest roadway, and then on up into the high country from there. So their adventure backpack hunting is a big deal nowadays. So you want lightweight stuff. Those little lightweight sleeping mats are what we use. They roll right up and fold right up, but you can blow them up. And I swear, you know, I've slept as many as 14 days on one up in the mountains, and they're comfortable. And of course, you're tired. You're already tired from just living in the elements, hiking, but staying out in the weather, rain, snow, then it's 90 degrees sometimes all at the same day in Alaska. That's what happens to you, you know, so you're tired out. Boots, personal choice. We all have our brands, what we like, and there's some slides, there's some pictures of boots we're going to come to. Charlotte her foot really likes the crispy boot. That's what I'm wearing today. That's what I wear to work because I like support on my feet all the time. But we have the Lathrop boot that we had the foot mapping and all that stuff, and I love that boot. It's just a little heavy. So they all have the give and take. There's some great boots right here at J Sporting Goods. It really comes down to the individual and what fits your foot, and break it in good before you go, because, you know, blisters can ruin a hunt really fast.
Duct tape's your best friend.
Yes.
You know, get your water bottles, wrap a bunch of duct tape on the bottom of it. So if you do get a blister, make sure you got some 2-inch tape to put over, or a Band-Aid to put over the blister, and then put duct tape on your foot. We don't care what your foot looks like. We just need to protect your foot.
So I always say this, she doesn't have very tough feet because she wears cute shoes. You know, my feet are pretty tough because I wear boots all the time. So when she goes to boots, her feet are soft. So she's a pro at fixing blisters and helping if you do get a blister, for sure. I'll probably talk more about the gun sling system, but you can see in this picture, that's Charlotte with her doll sheep, and this is one of the Trigicon guys that's in their R&D from the military. That having your rifle on a pack is the only way to go when you're actually hiking in. Now, there's different sling system if you're in bear country where you can sling your rifle to your pack to the front and it pops loose and you can actually use your rifle if you encounter a bear or something, a dangerous game animal. But for the most part, your guide's gonna be prepared, or your buddy. I would never go without a buddy or a guide in the backcountry. It's the buddy system. Solo hunting is, I mean, you can do it for sure. And we're going to get to that where I got rescued out of a fire. And that's the last part of this presentation. But having your gun slung to your pack in any configuration is the best way to go. Just trying to carry a rifle up a mountain on a sling is very difficult. So basically what I talked about, different packs for different type of hunts. This is Charlotte's Kafaru. This was her doll sheep hunt. This is a big one. This is 7,000 cubic inch. And she literally she had where they had ATVs in the bottom, but then they had to hike in the high country and stay in the high country. So she probably was carrying 55, 60 pounds herself. The guy probably 70, 75 to get him up in there. And then she had a cameraman carrying his camera gear and helping carry gear too. So that's her pack. I put this picture because you see the compartments on the outside. You can always buy extra compartments to put on. It's always good to have a couple zips for certain, you know, obviously your phone, for photos. Nowadays, you don't really need a camera. These iPhones, I mean, you can take 4K video. The video of her desert sheep shot was through a phone scope in 4K, and we'll use that on the TV program because it's just as high quality as anything. And you're through Swarovski glass, so I mean it's as good as any zoom lens that you can find. So this was the horseback hunt. That's one of those pack rabbit packs that I talked about. It's smaller, rain gear, second layer of clothes, lunch bag.
Extra socks.
Always have extra socks, yeah. But for the most part, first aid kit. For the most part, that's what you wear on the horse when you go hunting. And because you got bags, and then the other horse, if you're taking a pack horse, you can take anything else you need on the horse. This was British Columbia, and that's the pack rabbit loaded down with I got the 10 on the top and everything. So you can expand it pretty big. And we literally, and that's the front sling. So there's bears in BC and Alberta, grizzly bears, and they don't let you hunt them anymore. Canada banned the hunting, so there's way more than there should be, and I've encountered them both times I've been there. So the bears are real. This is my Kafaru pack. There's another sling system again that's carrying the moose out in Alaska, cold, wet, and miserable. That's Alaska. It's going to rain every day, and if it doesn't, then once you have a couple good days, then it's going to get really bad for a few days. And anybody that's ever done a backcountry hunt, especially in Alaska, is going to probably tell you stories about how many hours they laid in their tent and listened to the rain. So take a good book with you on a backcountry hunt, something to keep your mind going so you don't quit. Because it's easy. It's easy to think about, man, this is no good. The weather's terrible. But the next day, the weather could break, and you could run into what you're there for. So the big thing is a marathon, not a sprint.
The big thing I want to say on packs is it's real important, guys, that you try them on. Try them on. Put something in them. Put a little weight in them. See how they feel on your shoulders. See how much adjustments they have for your back, from like your shoulder to your back of your lower back. Because if it's too long, you're gonna hurt. If it's too short, you're gonna hurt. It's really important you make sure these packs fit you before you go.
And that's great point. And the key to these packs are the waist part. So you're gonna ride the waist on your hips. You're gonna snug this part up and you're not gonna rip the shoulders tight. It's gonna have a little space there because your shoulders are gonna wear out. It's just like anything, your core, your hips, Major League Baseball players, it's all about the hips and the follow through. Football players, it's all about the core and the hips. Running backs run through people with this, not their shoulders and arms. So your pack has to fit really good in this region here and snug up good right there. That's a good point. Rifle practice to trust under pressure. So if you get a chance to watch the experience, I'm just going to call myself out right here. That's the rifle. That's the actual hunt that I shot the antler off a moose. No crap. So that back, if you back up on the slide, see that duct tape right there? Bullet hole went through, knocked the moose cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He fell on that antler, popped it right off, stood up. My guide says, you blew his horn off. And I looked at him and said, how did I do that? And he laughed and says, I don't know. I've never seen that before. And you can see this all on the experience because guess what? I didn't hide the fact that I made a terrible shot. I didn't. It's the experience. It's what I did. I got excited under pressure, shot a little further than my capabilities because of the excitement. I hit him the first time, and he's standing there. So then I started sending lead, right? You're in Alaska. I was shooting down off a mountain. I was in a bad shooting position because we got caught. I got all kind of excuses. Doesn't change the fact I blew the horn off a moose.
How far was the shot?
The first shot was just over 500, and we'll talk about shooting right now. If you're going to go out west and you're going to hunt big country, you've got to be proficient, in my opinion, to 400 yards. And everybody has their own abilities. Some are better than others.
So I'm gonna shoot 7.
I'm not that guy. I'm a military guy. I was a law enforcement guy, but I was a close quarter combat guy. I was an entry guy. So I wasn't the long range shooter guy. I'll be the first to tell you, I can put lead in them, obviously, right through the horn. But we take, in the taxidermy studio, we take plenty of bullet holes in the paddles. Guys get excited. It's usually the follow-up shots because now you've settled in, you made a shot, and your follow-up, you get excited, you start slapping the trigger instead of squeezing. I think that's what happened to me. But I got caught in a seated position at 500 yards with my elbows on my knees and my rifle on my pack because we got caught on an open incline when the moose came in. Long story, because we were trying to find the moose that we thought was spooked out, and boom, here's another one. And so anyway, I was in a poor shooter's position. I should have made a better decision to just say, but it was day 7, so your mind's playing tricks. Oh my gosh, he's right there. I got to try this. And I actually did make a good shot the first shot. Then I did that. And then he moved off, and then I put 2 more in him. So I was okay, but I'm just telling you, I was probably past my capability. The furthest I ever shot a sheep was like 350, 360, and I think she shot her last one at 380.
381.
381, so right there.
In the most awkward position.
Again,
ever to see.
But at least she's in some type of a shooter position. That's the big thing. So you got to practice with these rifles. These long range, that rifle is way more capable than I am. It's a custom rifle, RMP custom, and it's way more capable than I am. And when I was on the range, heck, I shot out to 1,000 yards and I hit a deer target, and I don't think any of my shots were maybe a little bigger than a pie plate, and I shot like 7 times at 1,000 with that rifle. Controlled conditions, spotter telling him to hold for the wind, all those things going on. Now you got a moose out there, he's breathing, he's coming to the call, he's got great big antlers, I've never seen one that big before. If my heart wasn't pounding, why am I there? I'm a hunter, just like you all are. We're hunters, we get excited, I sure did. So if you go to YouTube, you can watch the Experience Moose Hunt, and man, did I take some criticism over that, shooting too far, you should have never showed that. And I'm thinking to myself, I was just being real. We're real people. We're human. We're showing the experience. I did it. So, but yeah, practice and be ready for long shooting if you're going out west.
What caliber?
That's a 30 Nosler. I'm a 300 Win Mag kind of guy. That one's a 30 Nosler. Charlotte shoots a 28 nozzler. I think if I had, I love the nozzlers, by the way. I love that round.
Me too.
And yeah,
By far
But-
my favorite.
I think if I had a do-over with the nozzler, I'd probably go to a 28 because it's more like a 300 Win Mag. That 30 nozzler's hot, man. That thing, I mean, it's got muzzle brake and everything, but it's hot. It jumps right out of your hands still. And maybe it's because I built the rifle too light for mountain hunting, if you will. Hers is built very lightweight. She has titanium action, so her rifle is super light. It's a 28, but it does not jump out of your hands like my 30 does. That 30 is hot. So dress in layers, I think I already touched on that, but she's going through pockets. This is just a picture we took off her TV show of her doll sheet. But yeah, that's what you do. You're right on the side of the mountain. It's time to go down in layers or up in layers. You lay your pack off and you switch it out. Trekking poles are a must. So as you get older, you lose your stability, but even youngsters, it's like 4 legs are better than 2. When you're crossing a creek and stuff like that, it's nice to have that stability with your other hand when you're climbing. It'll help you. Quite often I just use one until this pack is full of gear. Once you like bringing the animal out or whatever, it really helps. You got all that weight on your back and you can rest yourself by just kind of throwing it up off and then just hold on to your trekking pole straps and just sit there and give your back a rest without sitting down. Because when you put a moose quarter in your backpack or an elk quarter or a mule deer, you know, sitting down and getting back up, that's not very much fun. That's miserable. So that's how I rest, you know, find somewhere I get the weight off me. But the trekking poles, I mean, even on the aoudad hunts we've done in Texas, I take them on those mountains in West Texas because it's so much nicer to climb. I mean, I'm better at going up. It's harder on your lungs to go up, but coming down, I hate it. It's hard on your knees. I always feel like, ooh, you know, what's that next step going to do to me? When you're looking straight down, you know, that trekking pole is so nice to drill it into something. Quality optics, I'm sure anything you've talked to or any seminar you go to for hunting, quality optics are a must. You can do so much more by staying put and glassing and then putting the stock on. It's spot and stock for a reason, but you got to do the spot portion first. So quality optics are a must. I've been running on pretty quick here, or rambling a lot. Sorry about that. Lightweight packable tents. Like we've done most of our mountain hunting with outfitters, and they provide these tents, and they're great. We've also done DIY in Wyoming where we literally take the ATV and we go into the back country and we set up an outfitter tent. That is super fun too. It's a different style, but it's still super fun to do. So it just depends on where you draw that tag, where you want to do that hunt. I'm gonna touch on dry bags. Okay, dry bags. You've got to have everything that's in your pack. And I would say you can get a dry bag for your whole pack, but I would put everything you don't want to get wet in a dry bag within your pack because at some level that rain slicker for your pack is not going to do the job. So I always put my underwear and socks, anything on my long underwear, if you will, my merino wool that's not on me, it always goes in a dry bag. If you got anything in there you want to keep dry, put it in a dry bag within the pack. Those are the Lathrop boots I talked about, and I already touched on that about brand of boots and what you like and you know that fit your feet. I really like the Lathrop boot. It's comfortable, but like I said, my criticism of them is they're heavy.
Yeah, they're too heavy.
They're heavy boots. This is Charlotte. She's a crispy boot person and lightweight, and they're a really high quality boot. Be prepared for adversity. Adversity is always going to happen. You have to have an open mind, and you have to have a little bit of that, oh well, let it roll off your back. Don't get too upset about anything. Don't get too high or too low when you're on a backcountry hunt because something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, we rolled the tire on this, and it's not like you got a jack out there. It's not like you got a lot of spare. And I learned a lot about changing the tire and getting it pumped back up just by popping it back on the wheel and getting the bead reset just from this year. So we went to the creek and got rocks so we could lift one side of it so we could get the tire where it'll take the air. And it taught me a lot. I mean, that was something new for me, you know. And
yeah, these guys
you
and
fix them and you
outfitters,
figure it out and you keep going. You know, that's part of what you're doing when you're going going hardcore, so.
Don't forget to take great photos. I love this photo that they took. You know, what you have, we're taxidermists, obviously the trophy on the wall is awesome. And we have a beautiful collection of trophies in a trophy room in our house. But there's no substitute to that picture to remind you how you felt at that time. So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, don't forget to take photos along the way. The last thing I'm going to talk about is this, and I could be the most important, the satellite connection. The Garmin InReach is probably the most important piece of equipment that you can have out there. And I learned firsthand, never thought I needed or use it. And actually my partner sent me that for my birthday just before I went on my Rocky Mountain Bighorn hunt. And so I carry it everywhere I go now, as you see, as I hike the mountain. That's the stone sheep hunt. But what I'm going to get into is a real life situation. I was caught in a forest fire with an outfitter, a guide. We were coming out. I killed my sheep early, and so we were coming out by ourselves. I had a cameraman, myself, and the guide. And my satellite phone would not get out. I could not get a signal to do that, but I could text her. And then, so I started texting her before I hit the SOS button. And then we're sitting there watching the smoke come over the mountain. And I looked at my guide was a young guy, you know. Here I am a former law enforcement guy, retired from Mount Pleasant City PD early to go into this profession. And I'm trying to be too egotistical to ask for help. And I thought, you're a dummy, hit the SOS button. So I mashed the SOS button, the wheels started flying, everything went right. Within like an hour and 15 minutes, we had a helicopter flying us out of there. And they knew what my grid coordinates was. She was talking to him in California. When I got out to check my sheep in at Fish and Wildlife in Alberta, everybody, there was like 12 or 14 people, they all come out of the office. You're the guy that got helicoptered out of the forest fire. Your wife's name is Charlotte. She called us like 20 times. I'm like, yeah, I think she probably did.
It didn't take long for me getting rescued.
But I'm telling you what, this piece of equipment works. I did have some rescue insurance or whatever, but in a natural disaster, they didn't even bill us for this extraction because it wasn't like I injured myself or anything like that. But I've always been prepared with having that type of insurance. But the best insurance you can have, you can text your loved ones with that InReach, but you can always hit that SOS button, and then it gives them your grid coordinates where you were. And we were in the middle of nowhere, Alberta, and within an hour and a half, I'll say at the most, here comes a helicopter. So I got a little video clip from it from the TV show I wanted to share with you. You know, just an update on what's going on.
Just an update on what's going on. We're okay. We're safe right now, but I don't know if you can see the smoke, but we're breathing smoke. We can see a wall of smoke. We just rode through a burned out area. We saw it in our valley last night. We got to halfway camp. 2 horses from another outfitter with no hobbles, no bridles, no bells, are all the way up the valley. So they've obviously been cut loose because of this fire. I got satellite phones, GPS tethered to my cell phone, sending messages to Charlotte, trying to have her get in contact with the helicopters. But everything is delayed. You're dealing with satellites. You're not dealing with cell towers, so it's a totally different game. No signal. This is serious. We need help now. Fire all around us. Please help. So the SOS button worked. I've been in touch with Charlotte. She's contact search and rescue. She's calling Ripcord because I have Ripcord insurance that I purchased before this trip. this is a life or death situation. There's only one way out of this canyon, or we go back up over the pass, and the over the pass is 6 hours away. What if the fire catches us before we get there? I feel terrible for these horses, but the only thing you can do is cut them if the helicopter comes, and they'll work their way up out of the smoke the best they can. I mean, it's a terrible situation to be in.
Things I didn't touch on.
We're going to scramble now and see if the
I can open it up for
helicopters
questions
come.
here. If you have questions,
Tanner,
and I are going to hang out.
are you
for a
all
while.
set? You got all your stuff
About if
too,
you're
because we
gonna
got to
go
get you out of
these
here too.
areas where
So you
you're not gonna be able to get a vehicle into you, how important.
can't just film everything.
Yeah, the insurance is important because especially if you get injured and you have to get extracted, what they charge you for helicopter and air rescues out, that's just crazy money. So there are other, we used ripcord or use ripcord, but there's other places
Global
like,
rescue.
yeah, global rescue. When we go to Africa, I've been to Asia hunting, obviously, Mongolia, Turkey. It's good to have something to back you up. And even if you're going out to Colorado, I mean, there's backcountry there that you can certainly get yourself lost in, hurt in, and you need, extraction. And those are very expensive deals that happen to you. And it's very inexpensive. Like a full year of coverage, I think, is like $500. Not very much if you do it out through the month. So it's something you have to look into, I think. And then with the Garmin's, the importance of the Garmin is, like, we all use the inReach, and I was going to give an example of how the inReach kind of got me in trouble in Wyoming. It takes you to the corner or the lines of property, but sometimes when you shoot an animal and you're on the lines of the property and that animal crosses that line, you got to pay attention to where you're at, because you're legal to shoot it here, but you're not legal to go over there and get it. And that's what happened to me in Wyoming like 4 years ago. I mean, if you're doing a DIY, which we do out west, and we did last year again, elk hunting with archery, and the inReach has signal, it's great. But if it doesn't have signal, then you can get the same type of maps put on your Garmin. The Garmin's always going to work. But those things can get you kind of in the knife edge too, because landowners know exactly where they are, and these outfitters pay attention. They know where people are coming in. I walked 3 miles into this spot. Long story short, I shot a mule deer. I hit him back a little bit, so I had to trail him. And when I got to him, he was, I think, 30 yards.
Yeah,
30 yards. I had this outfitter pickup truck come blasting in. Well, we've hunted Wyoming enough. I knew the game warden. It's a lady, and I had her in my phone. So they're like going to arrest me, make a citizen's arrest because I'm trespassing. I poached a deer on their property. And I said, whoa, time out. Slow down. Let me call. Bring her out. I'll tell her the story. You guys don't want to listen to me. So they got on my inReach or my maps on my phone. I had my tracks on, so you could see where I was and where I wasn't, right? Because it tracked me the whole way. You see where I was sitting all afternoon, because there's a lot of little lines where, I'd move about in glass or whatever. You could see where I went to trail the deer. You could see that I crossed the line 30 yards in. So I didn't shoot the deer on their property. And I said, listen, write me a trespass ticket. I was trespassing. You're right. I was supposed to call them. I didn't pay attention. I got in the heat of the moment. And that's exactly what we did. I paid a $100 trespass ticket. And those guys wanted me to go to jail, and they were just freaking out. I mean, I apologize, because it was my fault. I mean, I'm going to be the first to admit it, that I got myself in a bad spot by sitting close to a boundary line. And these outfitters hate public land, which is frustrating to me, because I've hunted with numerous outfitters. But what are these public lands for, And I mean, I get they're trying to protect their deer for their clients, but these guys were over the top, and I think they're taking out their frustration for probably some really bad actors on me, because they had me and I didn't run and I didn't hide from anything. I'm like, yeah, here I am. They're like, you know where you're at? I'm like, yeah, I'm on the state game, or, BLM, blah, blah, blah. No, I pulled up to my phone. I'm like, ooh, no, I'm across the line, aren't I? Yeah, sorry. So I tell you all that because these in-reaches and Garmin's, they're important tools to have for all of us. But if you don't have signal, your in-reach doesn't work very good. You're gonna need that Garmin, and the Garmin can save your life, so. I guess with that, I'll open it up to some questions, and then anybody have any questions? I know there's probably things that I didn't cover, and then obviously we're gonna be on the floor for a while. If you wanted to come up and chat with us. Yes, sir.
So for Wyoming, the last year, they had a lot of winter kill. So how long do you think it should be before their numbers come up high enough to actually be worth your while?
You know, I'm asking that similar question because when we went deer hunting, that was 3 years ago, they had winter kill. Wyoming's having a problem right now. Not only with winter kill, I believe they're, just my opinion, guys, this is not a professional, I'm not bashing Wyoming, but I truly believe they're overselling some areas, their tags. And I think that's becoming quite popular in most states because the popularity of hunting and the amount of money that they're grabbing to do it. Now, I don't know all the details, so I don't want to just throw them under the bus, but my opinion, we're buying preference points again, and we're trying to figure out when do we go back to Wyoming?
We got 4 preference points. Right?
Okay, so you're in a good spot. Okay, if you didn't just tell me that I haven't paid attention the last couple of years, it was 3 years ago they had winter kill. We went there. We could not find a buck over 2.5 years old, maybe a 3-year-old buck in the public area we were hunting. I'm like, and so we talked to the local guys, and the local taxidermist sits a friend. He goes, "Oh yeah, the winter's wiped them out." But years ago, like 15, 20 years ago, you go to that area and you can take your pick of a 4-year-old, 4x4, all 4x4 bucks. You can't even find a 4x4 buck now in this area. So I'm not sure exactly. I know winters are hard on them and some, but I think that area we hunted got real popular and they oversold tags, if I had to guess.
We're going to wait about 4 more years, I think.
Yeah,
I would.
3 or 4 is probably a smart thing. And then you'll have enough points you could actually maybe pick a, what do they call those in what? It's a limited quota area instead of the general. So we typically buy the general area, but if you get a limited quota, then you got less hunters and it's a better time of year. So I'm speaking of general hunting terms too. So it's kind of apples and oranges. You get a limited quota tag in one of those really good areas. That's when you're going to find the older, more mature deer anyway. So
Something else I would think about too.
we take this little bugger.
We all as hunters want to go and be there for opening morning because, we want to be there before everybody else. I almost think go the week after.
Especially out west, we've learned that.
When you go out west, you get a lot of the local hunters that are just filling tags. They're shooting anything that comes through. They're filling tags and then they're out of there. Yes, you're going to have some trophy hunters. But what we've seen with all the hunting we've done, especially in Wyoming quite a bit, from our first years to today, I almost would go the next week. Let all the locals get in, get their tags filled, get out. Now let's go hunting, because they're going to leave and go home within 2 or 3 days, and you can get in and get away from people because a lot of people are gone because they filled their tags. I would look into how long your hunting season is and stay away from that 3-4 day beginning.
The first 3 or 4 days, we've always done our best, like day 5, 6 on our own out there, kind of let the crowds get out of there. And then we're better. Any other questions? That was a good question. Yes, sir.
I'd like to follow up with him. So if Wyoming had a large kill, what state would you recommend to go to shoot an elk, a 4x4? I'm looking at New Mexico and Colorado, and I just literally crossed Wyoming off my sheet right here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the elk is as bad as the deer in Wyoming,
Alright.
to be honest. I don't know if I'd cross it off.
Yeah, we went elk hunting, bow hunting elk
Lots of elk.
this last time. We seen lots of elk.
Not big ones.
Not big ones, but there was some good ones. But
It was last year, wasn't it? Yeah, it was last year.
years.
No, it was last year because we got the bus.
oh,
So last
Yes.
year, we saw lots of elk. As a matter of fact, we went out there DIY, called in a couple spike bowls that we could have shot, and we did not. And the partner, one of my retired police officer friends was with us. He got a shot at a really nice 6x6, and then he passed a 4x4 bull elk. and we were in the Bags area. I'll just tell you the region we were in. There's a lot of elk in that. There's not a lot of big elk down in the Bags area in that region, but there is a lot of elk. We saw a lot of elk.
I would say do your research.
Not deer, but elk.
Check with, DNR is your friend, because don't be afraid to call them and ask them questions. A lot of those guys will tell you, oh, I would stay away from that area. The population's not very good. If I was you, I would look more into this zone or this area. Don't be afraid to talk to people, talk to those guys, because a lot of those guys will give you information.
I follow a lot too with Chamber of Commerce in these areas.
Oh, okay.
They'll give a lot of good advice
Exactly.
for non-residents.
Yes.
For private land and state land.
Yes.
The Chamber of Commerce in those areas.
But also the New Mexico is a great option. If you can get in New Mexico, there's good. My last duty assignment was Colorado. Colorado's got some really big elk, and they have the most elk, but they've had some dips. But all three of those states you said were probably where that's
Where to look.
that's a good standing.
Can we talk about tags? So for example, I've been researching this probably too much. Colorado has a guaranteed hunt. Can you address that and explain it a little bit more?
Well, I don't know exactly how it works nowadays because I haven't hunted Colorado in several years, but they had guaranteed tags when I went out there as well. But those tags were later season tags,
All right.
typically. So it's not during the rut. And so again, I think you go right back to Chamber of Commerce, try to network with somebody that's been there recently or going there that can, I know some of these tags, like WTA Worldwide Trophy Adventures tags. You've got the Hunt and Fool magazine. They've got some pretty good tips and directions of travel, if you will, on that.
Yeah.
But that's. I wouldn't say I'm the best knowledge guy when it comes to Colorado or any of the state tags.
And the guaranteed ones are probably the ones with the lower population.
Yeah.
All right.
Colorado has over-the-counter tags for the second.
Okay.
Yeah, the second, third rifle. That's what I did. I did not. My buddy, we went 50%. Me and a buddy went, and we got one. But if you can get on private land quite often, because quite often, the public land gets pushed pretty hard. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And elk are obviously herd animals. So when they get pushed, they're in a herd and they go where it's quiet. So it's either way up high if there's no snow on public, so as high as you can get in. Or on somebody's ranch, then if you could get a trespass fee, which is very difficult to do nowadays, I know.
Because everybody's out bidding.
Yes, sir.
Elaborate on the point system and everything in like Wyoming. If you have more than just one hunter, like 4 hunters, how that will work in case somebody knows how it works. You can apply as.
Oh, yeah, the groups.
As a
party-
group or
party
not a
hunts.
group?
Yep, yeah, as a group. Yep, we do that.
I would say this, I would actually call the DNR and ask them that question, and here's why. We were doing Kansas, and we applied for rifle hunts on whitetail, and we did it as a group. Then we went bow season, and none of us got tags. And so what he found out by talking to the DNR as to why we didn't get tags, they told us it's not always great to do it as a group. Naturally, we want to hunt as a group, but that's not always the way to go. So DNR is your friend. You need to call and ask them.
Every state's got their little.
What's the best way to go about this? And they're going to tell you. They want you as a hunter to come in. So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a website or someplace that you can actually have like an outline of everything that you talked about?
I don't. This basically today, obviously we're in the taxidermy business and we do some hunting consulting. Charlotte and I do. We're on social media. We're responsive to questions. And most of our consulting is based on the places we've been through our business. But there's some pretty comprehensive stuff on Western hunting and big game hunting. Like I said, through the Hunting Fool, Worldwide Trophy Adventures. Mark Peterson's the owner of that. He's a friend of ours. He's actually a
Michigan guy.
native guy too. He's got TV shows as well. Mark does. He's a big Cabela's Bass Pro Shop guy. There's a pretty good wealth, but if you want to stop and see us, we can give you our numbers and email. We're happy to address any questions or even do research, because we do book hunters, but most of our hunt bookings that Charlotte and I do are international, for sheep hunting, New Zealand, Africa, Mexico, big, you know, the big, you know, as much as I hate to say it, the high dollar stuff that our taxidermy business attracts, and that, where we never forget where we come from, and that we still like doing DIY. I mean, I feel blessed to have taken some amazing trophies with guides, but I shot a nice 4x4 mule deer, her and I, on the 6th day of a DIY in Wyoming. We did it together and crawled on our hands and knees, and it was miserable, and we got a shot on him and I killed him. I'm probably more proud of that deer than any 180-inch buck I shot with a guide, because let's face it, it's great. You pay for that guide, and the guide did a great job. But I'm the trigger man. The guide does the hunting for you. They're taking you to an area, they know the animals are there, and they're putting, just like the moose. And I'm just being completely honest. I got nothing to hide. I don't stand up here and puff my chest out. I'm some great hunter. I've been fortunate to hunt with some outstanding guides that have the financial ability to do that. If you go out on a DIY elk, you go out on a DIY elk and you put an arrow through an elk, I don't care what size of elk that is, that's a trophy. That is a big deal. Because you didn't have somebody that said, hey, let's go over here on my uncle's ranch, and they're standing out in the hayfield, and put one down. That's hunting. I'm glad we do it. I'm glad that happens. I really am. It's beautiful. But the reality of it is, if you put the work in yourself, you find a little nook, a little cranny, and you get your animal, oh, man, celebration time. So, I mean, that's just who I am.
I wanted to touch on something that you said. So like when you're doing a lot of this big game hunting out west and stuff, you know, you're going to get crappy weather, stuff's going to go wrong, you're going to deal with a lot of different kind of things that's going to happen. To me, it's mental. You got to get it mentally in your head. If you're hunting a brown bear on the peninsula and it's going to rain on you every single day, and you're hunting in that, and you don't see sun for 2 weeks, a lot of guys quit. They can't do it mentally. So when you go to do some of this challenging hunting, get it in your head. It's not always going to be fun, but you know what? It's rewarding when you're done. Whether you tag the animal or didn't tag the animal, you know, it's doing it, the experience, the memories you're going to have for a lifetime, and the animal's a bonus.
And that's a perfect point, well delivered. All these TV shows, including ours, they have a successful collection at the end. They don't always have the in-between stuff, and they very rarely show the unsuccessful, the ones that someone quit, they didn't get their animal, because it's still hunting.
It's,
and
you know, some of it's brutal, and they just can't get their mind there, you know. And I did the bear thing, and it rained every day.
And she didn't kill a bear. So. And
I didn't kill a bear. We seen lots, but they weren't the ones we were to take, you know. A lot of sows with cubs, stuff like that. And my friends that have all done it, the first thing they tell me is embrace the suck, you know. And they had my mind so ready for it that I actually had a ball, guys. I had a good time.
For the record, I didn't go on that hunt. I embraced the suck from my easy chair with my feet up. She was cold, wet, and miserable, and she would text me from the reach. I'm like, man, I got a fire in the fireplace here, and all everything's great.
To me, it was the most fun,
you
know, to challenge yourself, get yourself where you're going. Same thing on the sheep hunts. It's not easy. When you're walking shelf rock like this that slides under your feet and you're looking down at the bottom of the mountain, yeah, that's a little pucker action going on, because right then and there, them sticks are your best friend, you know, to keep you from going. And but challenge yourself, you guys, because that's the part that's the funnest. Because when you do get the reward, you'll never forget the memory. Never.
So yeah, I'll take a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
Coming back from all this and stuff, bringing the heads back. Say you want to do a mural, you keep the head out and stuff. You have to get the tissue and the brains out.
Yes.
Yes,
That's correct.
it is the law.
Is there any information out there, so anything coming into Michigan has to have all the tissue?
Yep.
Yes.
Correct.
We got stopped coming into Colorado, in Nebraska, in the middle of the night. We had our trophies on top of a U-Haul trailer. We had to show a testicle in the cooler.
Yes.
Is there a website out there or something that shows you how to process that? Your process?
Yes. Again, this is where you need to talk to your DNR before you go. You need to Google, research the state, because some states it's required to stay on the meat.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
be attached to the
Basically,
meat.
you skin it right off, so that testicle, it's just like skin in the face or a leg. When you get to the private area, you just start skinning around it, just leave it right there.
Leave it
It
attached.
has to be attached. to both.
Yep.
Well, luckily, we did all that, and
Yep. But that's,
luckily, I have a cousin that's a veterinarian, he did it.
oh yeah, so he knew, yeah.
Yeah, he knew, and we had it on top of the coolers. But is it because we were going through Nebraska, or is it because we were transporting?
It could be. Charlotte, she did a road trip with one of the veterans that we took, a PTSD veteran, and they got stopped the same thing. So
Same
some of
thing.
these states, they just do checkpoints to ensure everything's being followed. And that's just a new thing that the state,
We didn't have any problems that night. I think he wanted us to get in trouble, but
Yeah.
we had everything on top, and we had to dig out the coolers.
Sure.
But same thing goes for bird hunting in Kansas.
oh yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to leave that spur
Yeah.
on that bird
Yeah.
when you're coming to Michigan.
And birds you want to be careful of, because that's federal.
Yeah,
When
birds
you're dealing with
deal with
birds, you're
federal
dealing with
stuff.
federal. That's a little different.
Well,
ballgame.
waterfowl anyway.
Any
Yeah.
waterfowl, a lot of that stuff you need to be a little more careful with and know your rules before you go.
Is that testicle thing, is that they used to call it a tri-state, is that a nation thing now?
I don't know the answer to that, but I couldn't give you an accurate. I would say to prevent any issues is probably the best policy anyway, regardless. But I don't know if it's required by every state. No.
A couple guys had questions back there and we missed you. Did anybody else want to say anything? Yes.
Food and water quantities, what are you guys thinking on your DIY?
So depending on what you're doing, like the mountain house, if you're up in the mountains and you're backpacking, you're going to be taking that, and we had like a base camp, and you take it out for so many days off the base camp, so you have like a stash at the base camp. So that's what we use with a jet boil. Water, you either have to have a filtration system if you're in an area that doesn't have glacier run, but like Alaska, BC, Alberta, that's all glacier run. We literally dip your canteen and
I
drink.
drank the best water ever.
It's
on
so
my golf
pure.
course.
That was the craziest part of the whole deal. And my first hunt was just like Jamie's, is like that Alaska experience of going into the Glacier Run River and drinking the water. It's just pure and cold. And yeah, never had an issue ever with any bacterias or anything like that.
They
But
make tablets, they make straws, they make purifying stuff.
Yep.
They'll have all that stuff right here, but definitely you want to make sure that your water is clean, it flows right. If you're on your own and you're not with a guide, your guides will know. So you don't never have to worry about it typically when you're
yeah,
with
they'll
a
know your
guide.
water sources.
They'll know what's safe, what's not safe to drink. If you're on your own, get the tablets, get the straw. There's a little pump thing that you can do to pump it into yours, and it goes through a filtration and goes in. But there's a lot of that little lightweight stuff that you can take with you.
Calories?
What's that?
Calories?
High protein.
I've
calories.
never really counted the calories, but it seems like when you're in those types of situations, you can about eat as much caloric intake as you can do, and you still lose weight. Every sheep hunt that I've ever been on, when I eat, whether it come ended early or took the whole thing, it's usually a 10 or 15 pound weight loss, no matter what. And it just seemed like that's all I did was eat. But they have my sheep hunts are all guided hunts, so I had guides, but they provide, you're always eating snacks. They have these little protein bars and stuff like that, right down to just chocolate candy bars, whatever it takes to just keep it coming. And those mountain houses, they're full of calories. And
High calories.
one of those a day is enough for a full day. They say, they're probably like 5,000 to 7,000. Just
It is.
stupid calories, but you just burn them right off, I guess, because I would eat one of those a day, and then we would have those bars and snacks. So.
It's the only time I can eat and it doesn't go to my backside.
But
It's when I'm on the mountain.
But it's really good. The best part of like a sheep hunt there is like when you got fresh meat and you've been up there eating those things for 2 weeks, and then you get a little bit of fresh meat on a stick and an open fire. I mean, it don't matter. You always have a little bit of salt and pepper in your pack just for that occasion.
Trail mix.
Yeah, trail mix is
Trail
great.
mix is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
High
So
protein bars are good.
we are going to be here. I just don't want to drag this out. I mean, we'll answer questions all day long. I got no problem. I don't know what these guys' wishes are of us. If you would like us to stay here to answer questions, or if you want to meet us out on the floor, come by and meet us personally if you got questions. I just don't want to keep the folks here that don't have questions. So we can take a couple more and you meet us out on the floor.
Do you have a preference on like scope power?
Yes, I actually do. I use the Trigicon product. We're Trigicon representatives, both of us, and I like the 3 to 18 scope, and I like the adjustable turrets for range. But the reason they make 4 to 20s and 24s, and I've tried them all. I've never shot an animal over maybe 14, 12, 14 if I'm dead solid set. She cranked it right up on a couple, and that's fine.
My dull sheep hunt, I cranked it up. It was 381 yards, awkward position, so I tried not to touch the gun much at all. I had bipods on the front, so I pushed into the bipods, and I told my guy, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm turning it up because I'm going to get one shot. The problem was I'm short and we're at a mountain peak, and I've got my barrel between a V. So I knew when they were running and there's like 60 sheep there, I'm not gonna know where it went.
So
So
one
I
and
said,
done.
I'm doing one and done. And so I cranked that thing up, pushed into it, and all I did was lay my hand to the side of the rifle and squeeze the trigger. Kept everything off of it because I was on this mountain thing and I was like this on the gun trying to shoot. I couldn't go prone. Which those kind of shots, typically you want to try to go down and go prone. I couldn't. Sometimes you as a hunter, you know what I did? Use my bino harness, rest my hand across the bino harness, and on my gun I have a strap that has a stick right here, and I grab that stick and I can turn that barrel any way I want to do by rotating the stick. And I stuck my thumb like this and I was rock solid. And all I did was just rest my hand like this. I didn't rip around. I just rest like this, squeeze the trigger, dirt down. It worked.
So the high power is great, but the reason I want to go back to it, the 3 power, I've got scopes that start at 5. If you're hunting backcountry hunting, I like to be able to go down to 3 power and always have your rifle on the low power for when you're hiking. Because if you do encounter a dangerous game like a bear, a mountain lion, heaven forbid, something that's bad, if your gun doesn't go down low in power, you'll never find them in those high-powered long-range scopes. So Trigicon makes a 3 to 18 with all the adjustable. It's got the best glass. It's a 50 millimeter or 30 millimeter tube, 50 optic, and it's my favorite scope because you can go to 3 power. The old 3 to 9, but yet you still have 18 power instead of 9. I love that. That's my favorite. So.
Well, a good example on that, and I want to touch it. On my dull sheep hunt, I had a Trigicon guy with me. Super great guy, knows guns, knows the scopes. He had some long range scope I've never heard of, but it's Trigicon optic one. And he had a sheep come up 50 yards, could not get it in that scope, too close.
And
So he had to let it walk, and then it ended up going over the edge of the mountain. He missed it, he just missed his opportunity. He had to go again.
I think we've all been there on a follow-up shot where you shoot an animal with the power way up, and then you start going after it or looking for it, and you might have another shot opportunity and you forgot to turn it down. It's like you look and all you see is a blur. It's like, oh crap, So it's a good habit to get into, to always operate with your power down.
Start low.
Somebody wants to be the star of the show right now. I think he might have to go poop. I'd probably set an alarm off going all day.
No, that was
Okay.
How do you guys transport your meat across country from keeping it from spoiling?
So like if you, like say if you're hunting out west and like you come back to Michigan,
Uh-huh.
how do you, how would you transport it? Especially if you have multiple, like.
Right, so that's one that you really gotta do your research before you go. Dry ice is your great friend. Get the good coolers, spend the money, get a couple good coolers. I'll take those 2-liter bottles and freeze them and lay them across the bottom. And that typically will work for a while until it starts to go bad. But usually there's a local store somewhere that's got dry ice. And then put the dry ice to the bottom, put your meat in there, don't open it, just leave it shut tight, you know? If it's like you kill something earlier in the week, sometimes your lockers will freeze it for you or hold it until you're ready to go home, you know? So that is just kind of one of those things, but most all stores out west will have dry ice somewhere. You'll be able to find it.
Yeah, the super Walmart's carried out there in Wyoming everywhere.
Everywhere.
They're prepared for us to come, us flatlanders to come out there and chase the game. We love it.
For mule deer hunting, do you guys do like e-scouting, like what kind of terrain do you guys look for that it'd be? Do you wanna, hunt for the mule deer hunt? We're going to Montana, so do you guys look for a certain kind of terrain or?
I think it depends on the time of year you're going. The bigger bucks typically early are bachelor group, and they're high. But it depends on the state. Montana varies. Montana's got some coulees and some low ground, some rolling hills, sand hills. They've got a lot of everything in Montana, so it depends on the region. But just, yeah, Wyoming has it too. But just know that if you're going early season mule deer hunting, you're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack. When you find a mature buck, it's probably going to be with 3 or 4 others. So you're not going to see a lot of them. But when you do, they're together. So that's kind of the key. If you're lucky enough to do that limited quota tag where you can get it in the November timeframe closer to the rut, find the girls. Just like here, you find the does, you found the buck, and they'll be separated. So you'll have more buck encounters, bigger buck encounters, instead of where are they at. My first Colorado experience, I was in the Army, and I got a tag for Fort Carson, Colorado, where I was stationed, and I had no idea. I was such a rookie. I was a Michigan kid. I went and I climbed up the mountain. I got about a quarter of the way up. And I said, man, this is too much work. This is a nice tree. I'm going to sit here all day, just like I'm in Michigan, right? Guess what I saw? I don't even think I saw a Tweety bird. I had no idea what Western hunting was all about. I zero. I mean, I was 24 years old, and I didn't do any really research. I'm just like, yeah. So it took a while and some really great guides to teach me the differences in Western hunting and hunting here, where I go sit in my gun blind and take a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a little heater and sit them out, wait them out all day. You can't do that out there. So.
Another thing to touch on that is if you watch after all the hunting seasons, usually all the states will put out the harvest reports. And so pay attention to those. You know, obviously the bigger number of harvests, the more animals are there. Maybe start researching satellite stuff, you know, get your maps and stuff and start researching that terrain. That's going to teach you a lot. I'm sorry, I'm about half deaf, and that's why I'm not wearing protection. You talking about